Greetings, loyalists and heretics alike. Today, I'll be covering my all-time favorite chapter, the Black Templars. Deranged, demented, fanatic, and super violent maniacs. I'll go through how to achieve black, cast iron looking armor in a few simple steps. Pre-weathering, preparation, and added texture to the armor. Let's begin.
What is your duty?
To serve the Emperor's will.
What is the Emperor's will?
That we fight and die.
What is death?
It is our duty.
What is your duty?
Off camera, I've stippled on liquid green stuff from Citadel. No dilution, straight from the pot. The reason I didn't mix any water in is because I want it to be very pronounced, to get that rough, almost cast iron feel to the armor. It will pay off when the acrylics are applied. I did weathering on the armor using a hobby knife before and after green stuff application. To add some interest, I added 2 skulls and I made a cloak using cheesecloth. I shaped it using equal parts PVA glue and texture paste and water. I tend to go overboard when basing, so to keep it simple for some of the marines, this one for an example, I just dipped the base in a Tale of Grimdark from Kraut cover. After priming the Templar in Chaos Black from Citadel, I went in and covered all of the areas with Abaddon Black. Get an even cover and to not leave any unprimed area out. I did not apply any Abaddon Black on the cheesecloth. When Abaddon Black is dry brush all areas using lead belcher. Make sure the bristles have almost no paint on them. The dry brush has to be subtle. The point of this is to catch all the edges of the physical distress we did before priming, for realistic damage on the armor. The brush I used here is a layering brush, ruined on purpose just for this matter. We don't want to use a standard dry brush here, as it would carry way too much paint for this. It might not be very visible now, but I'll show you a close-up photo of how it should look when it's finished. Here you can see close-up how all the raised areas of the liquid green stuff and the cuts have catched all of the lead belcher, leaving the black in the crevices, giving it a rough feeling of pitted armor, kinda like cast iron, which is exactly what I'm looking for here. Alright, time for more lead belcher, but this time I'm just applying it to all the metallic parts, such as the gun casing, sword hilt and so on. I'm not being careful here, kind of just overbrushing these parts, leaving all the crevices dark. Accidentally hitting the black armor or the trim that's gonna be more golden is absolutely no issue. It would be no problem since we've already been over those areas. And would you overdo it, you can just stipple back on with the black. Time for some trim. I use my usual 1-to-1 lead belcher and retributor armor. I don't want to have gold details all too shiny. We want to keep it dark and gritty. I'm using the same overbrushing technique as before, not being too careful. Should you accidentally paint it on the armor or the silver metallic detail, it's not the end of the world. Just stipple back some black, followed by a lead bezel dry brush. Rhinox hide and Thondia brown. This was used for all leather parts. Stippling on Rhinox hide and then subtle highlight stippling Thondia brown. Corn red. I use this for the upper part of the gun and the hilt of the sword and the cloak made out of cheesecloth. And I know what you're thinking. The mini is all to the right, and sometimes it's too close or too far away. But I have a fix for this now, so it won't be an issue in the future. It's gonna be stuck in place for all upcoming videos. No out of focus, no moving around, no nothing. Screaming Skull and You Shop the Bone. Probably my two favorite off-white colors. I use Screaming Skull for the tabard, and some of the skulls I used Ushap the Bone to have some sort of variation. And next up, I'm gonna use a pure white, which is White Scar. I'll be using this in the eye sockets and on the purity seal. You'll see why in a bit. Flesh Tear Red contrast and Sigvald Burgundy contrast. I use the Sigvald Burgundy for the purity seal and the Flesh Tear Red for the eye sockets. And now for the good stuff. Dirty Down Rust. My favorite. I apply this at random places where there is shine or pure metallics. No planning here, just go with my instincts. Next up is a pigment wash. We're using a mix of black soot and burnt earth from Greenstuff World, like we did in the last video. It's very suitable for darker armors. And now Villaining's Goonscrime. I apply this to all the off-white colors, the tabard and the skulls. Be careful not to let it pool too much before drying. After allowing it to dry for some time, our reductive technique is in order. A Q-tip damp with white spirits. Just dab on the skulls and all the raised areas and folds. Now, an extremely subtle highlight of lead belcher, just to catch the most raised areas, such as the cuts we did, or the liquid green stuff, to get that rough cast iron feel on all over the armor. And I mean it when I say extremely subtle. My brush is almost entirely dry, almost no paint on the bristles. I then went back to the Retributor armor and lead belcher mix. Just a slightly loaded brush, almost completely dry. Just over brushing the golden parts. I then went back to some corn red. Almost no paint on the brush, just slightly overbrushing some of the details on the red casing to give it some vibrancy back. And now for my favorite enamel, Sector Rust by Villainy inks. No real planning or control here. I went in neat, no dilution. Just tapping and dabbing on random areas where I think it would fit. And I know, ceramite don't rust. But I don't care. It looks cool. I'll always apply rust on every piece of armor I'll ever paint. And to finish up the base, we're gonna come in with some Vallejo iron oxide pigment powders. After I was finished and I was done filming this video, the Templar stood on the counter. It felt like he was almost staring at me, like something was missing, and I couldn't figure out what it was until it hit me. I needed to add some level of disgust to the mini. So I added some hair on one of the skulls out of camera after filming, using a Q-tip and PVA glue. I didn't add any color to the hair, since I thought that white hair would fit. Here are some still images. And if you made it this far, I would like to thank you so much for watching. If you learned anything, or just enjoyed watching, please consider liking, subscribing, or leaving a comment if you have any questions, or if there's anything specific you'd like to see me paint in the future. Until next time, my friends.